So I think we're live.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
It's like 4 of them.
Hi, good evening.
Ciao Teresa, how are you?
Ciao, ¿cómo estáis?
I'm fine, and you?
Good.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Sheila.
Buonasera.
Ah, Chris, buonasera.
Buonasera. Sorry, I have you on mute. I'm eating dinner right now, so when I'm done, I'll take myself off mute on video, if that's okay.
Yeah. No, in general, we want to make this interactive.
Good.
So if you're, oh, there's Lee, yay. But if you're not talking, it's probably best to mute, you know, yourselves. But then we definitely want to make this interactive. So just unmute yourself when you want to say something or ask a question. Hey, Lee, it's good to see you.
Ciao, tutti.
It's my friend Colleen. Colleen.
Hi, Colleen.
Hi.
Hi, Catalina.
I'm
Teresa.
I'm muted. You can't see us on video because I'm eating my lunch. Yeah.
So I guess we can start. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sheila Dunyu. I'm a sommelier and founder of Vero. So Vero goes around and finds small producers of wines and olive oils, and then we import and we sell them across the U.S. to businesses and consumers on our website, verovinogusto.com. And Vero is, you know, like we like to focus on small producers because they have their own vineyards. They farm and make their wine sustainably and just have a lot of passion about their products and about their livelihood. Vero means real in Italian. And so today's Vero Talk is all about sparkling wines. And bubbles conjure up thoughts of celebration and happiness. And now that we're 9 months into this COVID pandemic, and it's Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's right around the corner, let's just try to have fun and learn. You know, today's program is also about learning and talking, you know, amongst ourselves also about sparkling wines. And our focus is in particular on wines that that you might not know, sparkling wines that you might not know about as well. So it's like beyond prosecco and champagne. And we're really excited to have Katarina Anderson with us. Katarina, if you just want to introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Katerina. Probably you know me from Grape and Adventures, which is my kind of brand name, but also my website, which for the moment is in reconstruction. I write mostly about Italian wine, so probably some of you have seen that sometimes. I'm a sommelier. I come from a historical background, so I have a PhD in history, and then I also did my PhD at the EUI, which is the European Union Research Institute in Florence, which is based in Florence. And then I've been teaching at the university for some time. Then I decided to stay in Italy and also in Bologna for a couple of years. And from there, I came in to become a sommelier and to do also wine writing. And I'm also a translator as a work. So basically, I write a lot about. I travel through Italy a lot, so I kind of learn on the road, so to say. This year I haven't been traveling at all, almost. So that's a bit boring. But let's hope next year that we'll be back to traveling again.
So aside from Katerina and I sharing a passion for wine, we also both used to, well, I still live in Emilia-Romagna in Bologna, and Katerina used to live in Bologna. So we have a number of things in common, and today's, the sparkling wines that we'll be tasting are from Emilia-Romagna. So so it's, you know, it's really cool that we have that, a lot of things to share about them and about our backgrounds. And so basically, what, you know, the agenda is pretty, you know, it's pretty like, you know, let's say we'll make the agenda basically how you know, you, the audience, are interested in most. But we, I did prepare, let's say, a couple of points just in general about sparkling wines. And I know several of you listening are also experts in wine. So, you know, so just feel free to add your own 2 cents in. But anyway, we'll go through a little bit about sparkling wines and about the methods and you know, different types and stuff, and then we'll start the tasting. And so just a couple things about sparkling wine. So what makes it sparkle, or let's say what creates the bubbles is the bubbles are made of carbon dioxide, just air basically. And so basically there aren't any bubbles in a bottle, in a closed bottle of wine. So once you open it and it's interacting with air, that's when the actual bubbles are created. And the, you know, basically like sommeliers will evaluate sparkling wine on many factors, but what's particular about sparkling wine, of course, is the effervescence, the bubbles. So they'll, sommeliers will make an evaluation based upon the size of the bubbles, how many there are, and also how long they last. And a lot of those factors depend upon how the wine is made, sparkling wine is made, and also on other factors like the temperature of the wine. And so bubbles historically were initially made, sparkling wines were initially made almost like by accident, if you will. And that's through what's known as the Ancestral Method. So the Ancestral Method is when they bottle the wine, but the fermentation hasn't yet completed. And those types of wines were, you know, how wine used to be made, you know, a long time ago, but they're actually coming back, and they're quite popular now, and they're known as pet nats, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And then basically from there, the Champanon Method or Champagne Style Method was started, of course, in the Champagne region. And what I've really enjoyed doing as, let's say, someone living in Italy, really liking wine, becoming a sommelier and all that kind of stuff, is finding out other types of champagne style like wines that are made from different types of grapes and, you know, from different areas. So those wines, you know, are, of course, are, you know, really, you know, champagne and champagne style wines are, of course, delicious and fun to explore. And then there's the Sharmat Style. So Sharmat Style is basically after they do the initial fermentation of wine, they'll put the wine in a tank. And that is like a pressurized tank along with some yeast and sugars, and that will create bubbles during the second fermentation in the tank. And then lastly, there's a category that if you live in Italy, especially, you're familiar with, which is frizzante. So frizzante is probably best known as semi-sparkling wines. So those types of wines have just a little bit of effervescence. And actually, those wines are pretty common in northern Italy. and that's because bubbles, let's say in general, are known to, aside from having like a certain like tactile, you know, feeling that's created, and it's believed that bubbles will pair well with certain types of foods, in particular if there's fat, let's say. But also a lot of sparkling wines are the winemakers will decide to harvest the grapes early, so that way the wine actually is more acidic, and so that acidity helps also to pair sparkling wines with food as well. So anyway, that's sort of like a little overview I prepared before we start. I'll turn it over to Caterina. So Caterina is gonna step us through kind of her, you know, some points, let's say, about Emilia Romagna wines and the wines we'll be tasting tonight. So I'll start sharing my screen now. So, because I don't think I'm sharing it yet. Yeah, okay, I'm not. There it is. So you want to unmute yourself? Caterina,
okay, I'm here. Okay, so well, that was a nice overview of the sparkling methods for how to make wine. There's also, I mean, we're not going to go into that here, but there could be a long discussion about actually pet nat is not an ancestral method, but it's two different kind of things, and it's more like a hipster wine that people want to call it pet nat because it's cooler, but a real metodo ancestrale is not really a pet nat wine. There are some differences, but that's mostly in the technical side, but also in the more ideological side. I just want to say a few words. I'm not going to be very long here, so I'm not going to to become very boring. But as you can see, these are two vineyards. So the first one is from the Tomisa winery that I borrowed from their Facebook page. So that's like an autumn photo of their vineyards. They're closer to Bologna, San Lazzaro di Savena. And the other vineyard is a photo of mine from when I went to several years ago, I think 4 years ago, when I went to the Braschi winery, which is one of the two joint venture wineries in the Taramossa. So in the beginning of this vineyard, you have the Famoso grapes, and then I think you have Albana for the rest. It was a very, very warm day, so it was very beautiful. And so basically, I was there with Davide and with Vincenzo, who are the owners of Braschi winery. And so these are two different areas, because the Braschi winery is more in the Romagna area, which is towards close to Cesena, not far from the Adriatic seaside, and Tomisa is closer to Bologna, which is in the inland. Here you can see a map of all the different denominations or appellations in Emilia-Romagna. So you have Colli Piacentini, Colli di Parma, Lambrusco Reggiano, Lambrusco Salamino, Lambrusco di Solvara, Lambrusco di Rasparossa. What is interesting for us today is probably the Sangiovese di Romagna area, which is more or less, and also the Albana di Romagna, which is more or less where Braschi and Taramossa, the Taramossa joint venture is located, and then Colli Bolognese, where the Tomisa is. I think what I want to say is that if we go to Colli Bolognese, even if we will start to talk about the Taramossa wines, so the Colli Bolognese Pignoletto, the Pignoletto is the grape that the Tomisa is made with, even if Pignoletto is also generally called the Grechetto Gentile, and the original name would be Graphetto di Todi, but some people also call it Graphetto Gentile. Then if you would go deep down and look, it would probably be that actually there's only 2 clones that corresponds between Graphetto di Todi and and Pignoletto. And it's not completely, I think, defined yet if it's actually the clone of Graphetto Gentile that is actually corresponding to the Pignoletto. But I think more research is needed in that area, as in many other grapes. And Sangiovese, there is this book that actually says that Sangiovese also has its origin on the Tosco Romagnolo hillside, where it was kind of grown by the monks in the Middle Ages. There's a guy who's actually a professor in Florence who has made a lot of research on this, about the cultivation of the Sangiovese during the Middle Ages, and that's also kind of that the monasteries was this kind of on this road where people passed when they traveled from one place to another. Then, of course, it has been proven later on that Sangiovese has its roots in the southern parts of Italy, probably somewhere between Calabria, Puglia, and Sicily, because they found clones that are identical to Sangiovese on Etna, on the Aeolian Islands, but also in the area around Shiro, where the Galliopo has its center. And I think still they're not very sure which is the the correct origin of the Sangiovese. But anyway, just to have a general idea that the Sangiovese is part of the Terramossa #1 that we will be drinking, and the Albana and the small part of Trebbiano is the grapes in the Terramossa #2. I think Albana is the grape that gives really the structure to the wine, while the Trebbiano gives more the freshness to this sparkling wine. And then, of course, the Sangiovese di Romagna is very interesting because in the last years it's have had more of a comeback. Often it's been a bit in the shadow of the Sangiovese in Tuscany, because, of course, Sangiovese in Tuscany has become more well-known all over the world, but I think there are many very interesting Sangiovese di Romagna to taste, and there's also many different micro terroirs. So there's kind of the Bertinoro, but then there's also kind of the sub-region of Modigliana, where they do really interesting Sangiovese, which is on high altitude on the Apennine, between almost on the border between Tuscany and Emilia-Romagna. I don't know, should we continue with the slides? Do you want to say something here?
The first one, what do you think?
Yes.
Terramossa 2?
Should we taste?
Talking about that has Albana.
So Albana is a grape that has actually, well, most grapes are considered to have its roots either in the Greek, either have Greek origin or Roman origin. So it's said that Albana was a favorite of some Roman emperors, I think, relative, and it's also kind of also that was grown by the Roman legionaries on the Albana hills during the Roman Empire. But Albana has also been said that it got its name from because it's Alba means white, but I don't know if the name is if one has found the correct origin of the name. Anyway, I think it's a grape that is very interesting. It's said to be a red wine in the clothing of a white wine, because it's very full-bodied, very complex. It has a great body, and as I said, it gives structure to the wine, while the Trebbiano here gives more the freshness and the, I don't know, what do you think?
Who has the Terramossa 2? You have it, Teresa? And
Yeah.
Lee, do you have it? Do you have it?
I don't have number 2 right with me right now. I have number 3.
We have
What do
number.
you think, Teresa? Do you like it?
I'm just
Yes.
opening it right now.
Okay.
I opened this one already, so I couldn't wait any longer.
Teresa, you're in California, right?
Yeah, we're in Sacramento.
So I met Teresa on a very warm day in Lecce because she was and her husband were doing a tasting with a friend of mine, Stefano Spagnolo. And I kind of crashed their tasting because I just arrived for another wine event. I think it was last year, no, or 2 years ago, perhaps.
Yeah, 2019.
Okay.
Smells good.
Have you tasted it before, Ellie?
Yes, I have tasted it before. I just unfortunately don't have it with me right now. I only have the number 3. I've tasted 1, 2, and 3 before.
Okay. Well,
We have 1 and 2.
Bubbles are like fine,
I like that.
right? They almost look like champagne bubbles, even though this is the Sharmat method.
yeah. It has a quite elegant perlage, no?
Yeah. So you want to take like let us know, Katerina, what you think.
I think it has this kind of, well, of course it has this notes of fruit, a bit of candied fruit, no, and also a very mineral. It's a bit tannic as a grape, also Albana, no. So you have kind of this kind of grip in the mouth.
Yeah, it's like a lot. I'm used to Albana wines that like have a darker color, so so they probably didn't macerate it for that long. And then this also has
No.
Trebbiano.
But generally, I think in Blanc de Blanc you wouldn't macerate the grapes that much.
Yeah.
I think generally, if you would drink like an Albana Pasito, sometimes it also has a bit of a almond aftertaste. But here, I don't know if. What do you think, Teresa? Do you like it?
Yes, it's good.
It's very light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it something you would drink again, or have you had something similar before?
I don't know.
I like the lightness of the bubbles. I kind of can't handle like too much bubbles in my mouth at once. It's almost too overpowering for me to taste the actual notes in the wine. So I like this, that I can drink it easier.
Okay. Cool. Any comments, Sheila?
What do you think?
What do you think?
We've had this before here.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a 3 and a 4. We only had 1 and 2 here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, no, I like bubbly, and this is just light and nice.
I think it's perfect. Like also in that region, it's perfect also in the summer, no, with fish or also some aperitivo. At least that's how I
It's
often had it.
in fact, looking at the map now of Emilia Romagna, and you see along the sea, there's a pretty big like seaside area in Emilia Romagna where it's common to have fried fish, pesce frito, and this would go really well, I think, with some fried fish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Katerina, this is Chris.
Yes.
Is the wine from the Albana DOCG? Is that where it's sourced from? The same area?
No, I don't think this is, well, the area is Albana DOCG, but I mean, in the sparkling wine, it's not the DOCG.
Yeah, because I don't think they have this category,
No.
Albana sparkling, because in general, this like Project Terramosa, which is by the two producers that Katerina mentioned,
Mhm.
it's all about kind of making alternative bubbles, so making sparkling wines out of grapes that typically you don't make sparkling,
Yeah.
wine from, like Albana.
Well, you have the category spumante in the Albana denomination or appellation, but I mean, this is not obviously because there's also Trebbiano, and
Mhm.
so yeah, these are more alternative sparkling wines.
And I might have missed it, but is this done the traditional method or is it done tank method, the Sharmat?
This is tank method.
Tank.
Yes,
Yeah, I apologize.
I think they wanted to make a Champenoise method, but they haven't done so yet.
Well, they have actually. Lee has the Champenois method of Terramosa,
Okay.
so it's Terramosa 3
Mhm.
Okay.
one, but we're not tasting that.
When I was last there, it was,
Oh, we're not?
it was still on the leaves.
Oh, you can taste it.
She can tell us about it.
Yeah.
Well, sure, if you guys would like. Let me know whenever you're ready.
So, the Veros on our website, Vero Vino Gusto, you can get all these wines, but you can also get the Terramosa 3 Champenois method. In fact, we have like a special two set two let's say Champenois wines that we're selling as like a set. This Terramosa 3 and then an Herbaluce Champenois method.
Okay. No, when I was there last time, it was still in fermentation or on the lees. Yeah, no, I think it's a very pleasant sparkling wine made with a Sharmat method. I think also, as you said, the perlage is very kind of persistent and elegant for being a tank method, no? What do you think?
I mean, in general, like one thing I like about this wine is the choice of grapes, because it's not 100% Albana. They have some Trebbiano in it, and so it definitely has that freshness, the acidity that comes from the Albana, and then but the Trebbiano gives it more fruitiness, a little bit more smoothness, let's say.
It would be interesting if they. No, sorry, I was thinking about another thing. Anyway, should we go over to the Sangiovese?
But I'm pairing it with cheese popcorn.
Smart side.
Smart food.
Or do you want to do the Pignoletta in between, perhaps, because the other one is a red sparkling.
You want to go to Terramosa 1?
Do you want to do that one before the Gregato Gentile?
As you want, as you prefer.
I don't know. What have you planned? Which was the order?
We were going to do the Terramosa 1, the rosé, before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So has Teresa, have you ever been to Emilia Romagna?
Yes, in 2001, a long time ago.
What was your impressions? What were your impressions?
I don't remember, but I had just graduated from college and I went backpacking
Okay.
in Italy for 5 weeks, and that's the first time I'd ever had Lambrusco.
Okay.
But my aunt lived in Bologna for about 15 years.
Ah, you told me, I remember. Okay, I'm see if I can open it.
Teresa, what are your impressions of Emilia Romagna?
Honestly, it was so long ago, I don't really remember. I was a young 21-year-old who just graduated from college and stayed at youth hostels and took the train around and drank a lot. Yeah. I loved Assisi. I went to, isn't Assisi's in Emilia Romagna? Yeah.
No, it's
No,
in-
it's in Umbria,
Oh, Umbria. Okay.
but it's not that far away. So.
yeah. Well, Colleen, you've been to Bologna. So what do you think of Bologna? Like that's in Emilia Romagna, basically. the region,
Did that count? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to Italy twice and I lost my luggage twice. The people at the airport are lovely bringing your luggage there, but I like that it just has like this old small town feel about it, you know. It's just very,
Yeah.
it's like very warm and like a city that you could manage.
Really on the coast.
You know, not so much like you get to Rome or New York and you're overwhelmed with everything to see. It was a cozy little town.
Yeah.
Chris, have you been to Bologna? I don't know if he hears me. Anyway,
Sometimes takes a minute to unmute.
Chris is a big fan of Italy. I know. So.
I was on mute, Sheila. Yeah, no, I've been there twice. Love it. Can't wait to go back.
Yeah. Good.
Great town.
But Robin is here too. I see.
Yes. I think she's still on.
You want to say something, Robin?
She may have dropped off the Zoom. I don't see her anymore.
Yeah, okay.
How about you, Lee? Have you been to Bologna?
I believe I have a long time ago, but nothing recent, and I didn't spend a lot of time there to really get to explore the city and explore the region. I have tasted many wines from the region, but I haven't spent a considerable amount of time there. No.
Yeah.
It's on my list.
Well, so I have the number one, no? Yes. The number one, Sangiovese. So as I said, Sangiovese di Romagna is, of course, the Sangiovese clone. The oldest document where you found the Sangiovese mentioned in the Romagna area is from 1672 in the State Archive in Faenza. And more recently, there is this book that was written called Sangiovese Vino di Romagna by San Giorgi and Zinzani. And that's where they talk about that the Sangiovese di Romagna, that the origin can also be found kind of partly on the Apennine among the monasteries and so forth. I think like Bertinoro is one of the heart of the production of the Sangiovese di Romagna. Of course, also in the area where Podere Palazzo and Braschi are located, close to Cesena, or is also kind of in the heart of the Sangiovese di Romagna production area. Here they have used it, of course, as in a more original way, as a native grape for sparkling wine. So I don't know. What do you think? Have you opened it? Have you tasted it? You can feel the fruit, the red fruit, very much. Also the minerality and a bit of the chalky soil. Anything else? What do you think? Have you tasted it? Teresa?
Sorry, we're having Matt set up a because I can't hear you very well.
I've
Okay.
a lot of roses, like actual, like very floral.
Yes. Yes.
From what I
So you can-
remember tasting it a while ago, I know it's very light and refreshing. You have
Yeah.
the characteristic Sangiovese notes, and, cherry. Not cherry, I'm sorry, strawberry, but
Yeah.
very light and refreshing from what I remember. I don't have it now, but I recall that from that wine.
No, strawberry, also this kind of smaller strawberries in the
Mhm.
how do you say, the forest strawberries?
Uh-huh.
Also roses. Violet is also the typical Sangiovese flower, which also comes out after a while. And then it's very light, very fresh, very pleasant.
Yes.
I think it's very good. Sangiovese sparkling wine made with the tank method. It's not too heavy, not too structured, but it's just perfect for sparkling wine. Sheila, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I just, I know it's a favorite with a lot of people because it's fresh and just has a really nice strawberry taste. I think someone mentioned strawberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it has a nice mix of lightness, minerality, the calcareous chalky soil, the strawberry, bit of floral, as Teresa said. So no, for sure, it's a very nice wine. So I think both the Albana Trebbiano and the Sangiovese works well. I mean, the Sangiovese probably you can also have on more how to say, cold cuts and pasta dishes, lighter food. The other one is probably more for fish, the Albano Trebbiano.
Yeah.
So this one also goes well, I think, on the more heavy bolognese food, I think, because it kind of cleans the palate from the what are they called? The crescentini. No, what are these small called in the bolognese?
Crescentine.
Yes,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
lard inside.
Romagna, it's just a lot. It's an area where they have just a lot of really fatty foods. Like it's not a place you want to be on a diet.
I was 3 years in Bologna and I gained like, I don't know, a lot of kilos.
But
I had to go on a diet when I came back to Florence.
Crescentine almost is the concept. What would it be like? It's a fried. It's like a fried pita kind of concept.
Yeah.
It's like a pita bread, but just fried. And then they have
And there's lard inside, so it's even.
Sometimes they have lard. I mean, sure, with all types of.
There's fried lard, which is like super.
And so you definitely need these types of wines with a lot of acidity.
And then you eat it with mortadella and whatever. Makes it even more fatty. No, I think the Sangiovese is perfect with this kind of food also. I mean, in Romagna you have the more the piadina stuff, type of things.
We're trying to figure out what color it is because we're sitting in the dark backyard.
It looks like a weird like orange to us, but it's more pinky. Now it looks like a light rosé. All right.
Yeah, it's a bit salmon pink, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
it goes, the rosé Terramosa goes really well with pasta dishes.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it has like a little bit of tomato sauce and meat, because obviously it's made from Sangiovese, so it has a little bit more of that kind of flavor to it, a little more flavor, let's say, and fruitiness.
Yeah, and then it also have a bit of the tannins of the Sangiovese. So
Mhm.
it cleans the palate. So yeah, I think also the ragu bolognese would work well
Mhm.
with ragu bolognese. Now I'm getting hungry, even if it's like 2:30 a.m. here.
For Caterina, it's like 2:30 in the morning.
Sheila, where are you right now? Are you in California?
Me? I'm in New York. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm from. So.
But you generally, how far are you from each other in California?
You mean Teresa and where
Yeah.
office is? It's pretty far because Teresa, my office is in Ventura, so I spend a lot of time there. I haven't made it up yet to Sacramento. That's where you are, right?
You haven't gone to Cordy Brothers? That's where the Godfather resides. Daryl Cordy. Everyone in the wine industry knows Daryl Cordy. Come on.
Do you know Daryl Cordy?
No.
Google him. That's like it puts Sacramento on the map with a lot of wine people, like all around the world. It's kind of interesting.
Okay. We have to.
I would say Ventura is like a 4 or 5 hour drive.
Okay. Well, that's pretty far.
Katerina, are you on lockdown there?
No, from midnight that passed now, we're in the orange zone, so we can go out a bit more from tomorrow morning. But it's been 3 weeks to be locked up again, so it's a bit heavy. I mean, we can go out, but everything is closed except for food, shops to buy food and things like that. So, and if you want to go a lot further than around the house, you have to have a kind of a signed auto certification why you need to go further from the house. So, and since I don't have any anything to do, so I mean, I didn't have any valid reason to go anywhere. So I've been home for 3 weeks most of the time. But let's hope that it's getting better now. But I think they're going to kind of be very severe for Christmas because they're afraid that people will start traveling again.
Right.
And that they have to lock down everything in January, which they probably will have to do anyway, because I think people will try to travel anyway. So.
So Lee has to go soon. Are you tasting Terramosa 3, Lee?
Yes, actually, I am sipping number 3 right now. I have 1 and 2. I've tasted them and actually finished them, but I was holding on to number 3. So that's the one that I brought along with me for the tasting.
So you have to tell us about it.
Do you have the bottle so we can see? Because I don't have it here.
I do have the bottle. I can't see. I don't know why I can't see my camera. I can't even see what I'm showing you right now.
We can see you though.
Yeah, I can't see me. So, I guess it's because the screen is being shared. Yeah, so do you want to tell us about the wine? I guess I'll just talk about the tasting notes.
Yeah, so Terramosa 3 is it's a white sparkling wine that's made from Sangiovese and Barbera. And this is a Champanon Method. So this is what Caterina was saying, I guess when she visited the winery last, they were still fermenting the Terramosa 3 on the leaves. On the lees. So it goes through the second bottle fermentation like champagne. They have to rotate the bottles and all that kind of stuff. but it's 36 months, which is a pretty long time. You figure like Franciacorta, I think, has a minimum of 18 months. I think Champagne, it might be also a minimum of 18 months. So, you know, so it's basically twice, you know, twice as long. So it's, it has like a nice creamy taste to it that, you know, that is probably a result of the fact that it has been aged, you know, quite, you know, quite a long time. So it's, yeah, so it's basically a Blanc de Noir because it's made from, it's a white wine made from red
grapes. Yeah. I actually enjoy this wine very much. I think that the second, because of the way that it's, you know, fermented, going through the second fermentation, I think it contributes definitely to the fine perlage that's in the bottle. It lasts, you know, and it's very, very, very nice, very fine bubbles. It's like a pale straw yellow. I taste notes of like green apple, the brioche, toasty notes, I would say. It's definitely creamy and savory even. And I think that the Barbera that it's mixed with gives it a little bit more structure. And so it's definitely, you know, nicer sparkling wine that can be versatile and pair with many different things. I would have it with oysters because I love seafood. Even creamy pastas. I would say that it can accompany those as well as fish and even chicken dishes. 12% alcohol, but very, very nice.
And it's also, I think, a special wine to have around, you know, around the holidays.
Holidays, yeah.
Celebratory type wine. And we have it online. It's available on Vero Vino Gusto. I think it's around maybe $32 or so. So I think it's also reasonably priced wine, considering that it's made like champagne.
Yeah.
So no, it's a fun project, Hermosa. The fact that they basically chose, you know, different types of grapes to make, you know, to make sparkling wine with, different types of styles and stuff.
I can't say that I've had a wine with this particular blend, actually, whether it's sparkling or still, other than this one. So nice experience.
Yeah. All right, so should we move to the last wine, Katerina? Oh, she's muted. You're muted.
Sorry.
Are you having a party over there at 2 in the morning?
Yes. A rave party. So, I mean, this was the first time I tasted this Diretto Gentile because, of course, it's an IGT, so it's not a Pignoletto DOCG because as every DOCG or DOC appellation, you have certain rules, not only for yield and grape varieties, but also for the more organoleptic characteristics to follow. So this is an IGT wine, but still it's a Pignoletto. I mean, it's made with the Sharmat method, and then I read that then it's also in the bottle. So it's like a frizzy wine. It's a bit less lower pressure than in a normal Sharmat method, but so it's a fizzy wine or a frizzante. Which I think is a very enjoyable wine to also have for the holidays. I mean, perhaps for lunch or something, because I like it. I mean, it has a very rich structure because it's been macerated on the skins for some time. So you also see a deeper color generally, the Pignoletto we know has a lighter color because it has to follow certain standards. But here you can see that the color is much deeper. Now I think you don't see it because I have this. Now you can see it. I actually reached out to my friend Giorgio Melandri to learn a bit more about the Pignoletto, because Giorgio Melandri is one of these journalists, Italian journalists, also part of the Gambero Rosso. He's like a specialist on Emilia-Romagna and its wine and food, and he was the original founder of Enologica, the event which was then sold to another group of wine people. Where I think Adua Villa is part of the group now who is managing Enologica. So I asked him, so he sent me a text, and basically I think he said that the Pignoletto grape is like part of the common identity of the Bologna area, and it used to be grown in the places on the hills around Bologna where they were growing hemp. So basically, you had these tree-lined areas where they grew hemp, and in those areas you also grew the Pignoletto. And I think that was very interesting. So basically, then it has evolved and developed, and of course, it's now it has become the last years. I think the last few decades, a wine that is considered like part of the identity of the Bolognese, you know, the Bologna common identity together with the food, because it pairs very well with the fatty food of the Bologna area, I think. What do you say, Sheila?
Yeah, I mean, if you've lived in Bologna, you know Pignoletto. It's like sort of the go-to of the locals. And Bologna is the food capital of Italy. As I mentioned before, the cuisine is more fatty, so the acidity in this wine will cut well, contrast well with the fat. It cleans your mouth, and actually Pignoletto, or I should say the grape, is Grechetto Gentile. The appellation is Pignoletto, but Grechetto Gentile is also similar to what we said before, Caterina, about Albana. So it's also a white wine that behaves like a red grape.
Yeah.
So it has a thick skin, and so actually this wine is a bit tannic. You kind of feel that it kind of grips to your mouth, like your cheeks. And it's also a wine that you can age as well. So I was talking with Tomisa last month, and they were saying that this is, by the way, an organic wine, and organic wines apparently are big in Japan. And anyway, so they get a lot of requests for their wines from Japan, and the Japanese will request older vintages of their Pignoletto Cipariso wine, because it can age.
I mean, the Grechetto in general can age. I mean, if you look at the Grechetto in Umbria, where it's that is the grape we're talking about here. The Grechetto, I mean, it's still a lesser known grape, but I think it has a great potential. Both the Grechetto di Todi and the Grechetto di Orvieto, even if they're distinct grape varieties, because the Grechetto di Orvieto is more related to the Trebbiano. But still, they're interesting grapes. So I mean, for sure. I mean, generally, the notes to find in a classic Pignoletto would be herbal, from sage to mountain herbs, citrus fruits, and similar. I mean, here you can find it. I read also that it can be a bit spicy, and I think you can feel the spices here, a bit of cinnamon. But it's also very herbal, a bit citrusy, and for sure it has a good acidity. So that's, of course, making it more, that it has a longevity. Then, of course, as we said, the maceration on the skins makes it more, the color more rich, no? It's more full in its color, more golden. Because the normal, I mean, a Pignoletto, we're more used to a brighter, a lighter color. At least you know, the Pignoletto you often see in Bologna, or if you go to a restaurant, would be this. But I mean, this is also a new trend of making wine in the last 10 years. So I think we will see more of these macerated Pignoletto wines. But I don't know. I guess sooner or later the regulation will also change to adapt. I don't know. What do you think, Christopher? Have you tried this wine?
I have drunk a Pignoletto, but not this particular producer. The one you're talking about, more classic from Bologna, lighter, no skin contact, basically. But I like the wines. I like the grape. This is, as I understand, the Pignoletto is like a cousin of the Grechetto di Todi from Umbria, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's more or less this. Yeah, the clones are very similar. Yeah.
The same grape. But yeah, no, I'm going to try these wines. This one,
Yeah.
I like what the producers are doing now. They're basically fermenting white wines as if it was a red wine, keeping
Yeah.
that on for a long time. I've tasted wines from up north, Pinot Grigio, like that, and the colors are like copper color wines. Very different taste, and it's kind of interesting.
Because the Pinot Grigio in itself, the skin of the Pinot Grigio has a copper hue.
Orange, like an orange, yes. Yeah.
So I think if you, but then generally the wines of the Pinot Grigio were kind of the skins, as you know, when you do the white wine, it was taken away, so they never had any color. But
right.
Yeah, they're going back to the natural color of Pinot Grigio, which I think is very interesting.
It is very interesting.
There are some great wines being made with Pinot Grigio, both in Friuli and in the Veneto area.
Veneto, sure.
Yeah.
So
I think this is the same style, and I think it's very enjoyable. It's a bit different, so it's always nice to taste new things. Teresa, did you taste this one? What do you think?
Yes, we're drinking it right now.
It's my favorite so far. I find it to be the most interesting.
Yeah.
I like
Because it has more body, it's very rich, but it's also very particular.
And like the herbal notes you were talking about, like it's almost like kind of reminds me of Fernet almost. Like if you really kind of stuck it in, you're like, okay, it is very herbaceous. It's good. Very good.
And I think there's a mix of several different herbs. So it's very kind of complex in that sense.
Yeah, it's by far the most complex, I'd say.
No, it's interesting. Sheila, what do you think?
I'm eating. This is like, it is out of the three, this would be the most food, the one that's crying out, I want food. Plus I'm hungry. So it's heavier.
I have to go back to Bologna now when they open up again. I haven't been there for like a year or so. Because now I feel like I crave the fatty food.
In Florence, what do they have besides Fiorentina steak?
In Florence, it's like ribollita, papa al pomodoro, these kind of things. So it's more vegetables and but the ribollita is also fairly heavy. I mean, it's a lot of this kind of black cabbage soup with bread in it also. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. One thing about this this wine is I always smell a distinct apple note. So the Chipariso, the first one that I had was the 2016, and that, like the 2017, which we're having now, both of them, let's say, are were warmer years, and so so the color of the 2017 is is pretty dark, and then the smell, I smell more almost like an applesauce or something. It's more like a ripe apple, right?
It's like the apple cider a bit.
I smell
If you would buy apple cider, is a bit like that. Yeah, it was very warm year, very low yield, so the flavors are more intense, I think.
And then I also import the 2018 of this wine. And 2018 was a colder year, and so the color is more like a paler yellow, and the apple that I smell in the 2018 is more like a Granny Smith type apple. So I enjoy like trying different years of wines made by producers who make wine in a very natural way, that do minimal intervention, because tasting vintage after vintage, you taste the difference of really just what the climate, the weather pretty much was of that year.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, each vintage is different. I guess the 2016 must have been also very, very fresh, because in general, 2016 was a very good year.
I know in Tuscany, it was a good year, right? For the red wines, at least. Right?
Yeah.
It was a good year in Piemonte, I know that.
Tuscany and Piedmont, I think it was top years, 2016. Yeah. So a lot of the wines or the wineries predict a good aging potential for the 2016, at least for the reds. But I think also the whites would have pretty good. Emilia Romagna, I don't know, but it could be. So yeah. No, but you're sure here you feel a very ripe apple. It's a bit like when I was a child, we had this. When I was in Sweden, when I was little, we had this place where they made apple cider and apple juice that you could buy, and it's a bit like that, very kind of rich apple taste. So I don't know. I don't have anything else to add. Well, I don't know if you have any more thoughts.
Well, I think we're pretty much done with our tasting. I don't know if anyone has anything else to add, or anything else you want to talk about these wines, about sparkling wines, about Emilia Romagna.
I think it's a region that is up and coming. I mean, it's always been the food region, and I think now more than ever. And I think it's like a part of the common heritage and common mentality to be focused on food, and I mean, if you go to the Romagna part, that's also the more how do you say, the Romagna people are more hospitable and open-minded and very kind of, I don't know if you've seen the films of Fellini. Some of the places in Romagna are exactly like in a film of Fellini, and some of the people you meet are also very characteristic. The Romagna part is the very matriarchal, so it's the mothers and the women who runs the show, and the men are and it's actually like that often still today. I mean, it's very funny to see. But they're very kind of course also in the Emilia part, but I think even more in the Romagna, they're very, very characteristic people.
Yeah, what I heard is that So, you know, we're talking about the region Emilia-Romagna is basically like two different regions almost. They just kind of stuck them together probably because it was more convenient for Italian bureaucracy, but they are quite different, as Caterina was mentioning. So Emilia would be on the western part, and Romagna is the part that's along the coast, on the eastern part. And so one of the stories I heard was that, and this is from someone who's a Romagnolo, not from Emilia, that if you're in the olden days, if you're a traveler and you stopped in a house in Emilia, they would offer you a glass of water. And in Romagna, they would offer you a glass of wine.
Could be, yeah. It's also very sensitive to tell a Romagnolo person that they're Emiliani. And you can't say that. You can't say that they're from Emilia-Romagna. They're from Romagna. So they're very particular about it. You can't say that to them, but you're from Emilia-Romagna. No, I'm from Romagna. I'm not from Emilia-Romagna. So it's very sensitive. You have to think about that all the time. But yeah, there was a winery I actually went to. They have these big parties often. They're extremely nice, but it's the mother of the two brothers who runs the show. I mean, it's very funny to see. I mean, when she comes, it's she who decides when they're going to eat, what they're going to do, and it's very funny. But it's very cute also, I think. And they like to have big parties, so that's for sure. Teresa, anything you want to add?
We have 2 questions.
Yes.
I'll go first. So you made a comment about pet nats and how it's not technically ancestral, method. I am the first person to ever say that I am totally like a hipster with the wine I drink. I tend to only drink and purchase low intervention wine. So I'm obviously very aware of the pet nat craze. I tend to actually not really enjoy it myself.
I do.
But she does, but I don't. But I've read a lot about it. So I am interested to hear your take on it, because I have heard a lot of different sides to it of, I know that there's some winemakers that I'm really familiar with and follow that they're saying that their pet nats are actually like super OG style, how to make that style of wine. And then I know that it's been blown up by the industry and it's a little weird. So I would love to hear what you have to say about that.
I mean, I think nobody actually knows probably what was the real ancestral method. But actually, it's since the pet nat was born in the Loire, I think, valley in France, where it's not a sparkling wine area in France. It has been said that the real ancestral method, because basically it was that they put the grapes to ferment, and then they kept them there, and then over the winter the fermentation would stop, and then it would continue or retake again in the spring, and then they would bottle the wine. But the pet nat is put in the bottle in the middle of the fermentation, while some claim that the ancestral method is that the fermentation is first finished before it's put into the bottle and do a re-fermentation in the bottle. But I don't know. I mean, that's what I've read and what people have told me. So I think that's also the discussion between, the people in this region where they are very much on the tradition of an ancestral method, that they try to claim that, it's different from the pet nat, which is more hipster.
Yeah.
And then of course some regions then want to claim that they're pet nat because of course it sells more, because it's more cool to drink a pet nat than to say that you're kind of old school ancestral method. Then
I've heard both though, where it's like, I mean, I'm not a wine professional at all. I don't really know what I'm talking about. So bear with me. But it's like, okay, there's the one style of the pet nat where, you're bottling it before some of the sugars haven't actually become the alcohol yet, and so it's fermenting,
Yeah.
you know. And there's pet nat, but then there's the other side of it where no, pet nat is made from like the leftover crap, and so you're
thought it was piquette.
like almost recycling. It's like a piquette, but it's like not. It's all so convoluted with like what is being given to us like marketing wise, so it's hard to figure
But
out.
that probably is different ways of natural wine producers to use the pet
Got
nat.
it.
So I'm holding this wine. It's a wine that we sell. It's a Lambrusco called Essentia by William Martino, and so they're organic and I'd say natural because they don't add any yeast. It's all native yeast fermentation, and this is made in the Ancestral Method. So the way the producer basically describes to me is that they do the second fermentation in the bottle, and then it's also on the lees. So it's called fondo. So it has like, you don't really see,
The other thing with which many who does the ancestral method but doesn't want to be called pet nat is that they actually don't use the screw cap. They use a normal tap, like, you know, for sparkling wine. While the pet nat generally use the screw cap. Then there's another thing. So the people who make ancestral method prosecco are then claiming that actually the col fondo is the thing you use for the prosecco ancestral method. So col fondo you shouldn't use with ancestral method that then became the Champenoise method. So basically, Belecasel in Veneto, who makes the prosecco col fondo, they claims that they are not a pet nat because, of course, they first have the tank method before they put it in the bottle to re-ferment, and then it becomes with the col fondo, and that the col fondo would be a term that you use only for the prosecco ancestral method. But I don't know. I'm not sure about this. But these are like all the discussions going on. So I think it's also that each area wants to have their own ancestral method, I think.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Teresa has a question.
In Italy, ancestral method is how they used to make sparkling wines.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fermented in the bottle.
Teresa, did you have a question?
I'm just wondering, Katerina, what's your favorite region in Italy for wine?
For
Wine.
For white wine? No, what did you say?
For wine in general.
For wine in general.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
I know.
Of course, I like Tuscany because I live in Tuscany. I like Emilia Romagna because I like the things like Pignoletto and Lambrusco. But I have a weakness for southern Italy, I must say that. So I have a weakness for Campania, Basilicata, Puglia, Calabria. I like the Gagliotto very much, and I think it's a very underrated wine that needs more attention because you can make great wines with Gagliotto, and I think very few people realize that.
Calabria.
So you're saying that next time we go to Italy, we should go to Calabria?
Yes, it's a very difficult region to travel in because I think Puglia is easy compared to Calabria because there's not a lot of public transport and it's not easy. You have to have a car. But yeah, it's a very interesting region. I think also Basilicata is very interesting because there are people making really great Aglianico del Vulture. As Irpinia in Campania is a great region. I think also the area in Cilento, which is the southern part of Campania, there are some really great smaller producers that are starting to do really good stuff now. And even if other areas in Campania says that the Aglianico in the Cilento area is, you know, nothing compared to Taurasi or whatever. But I think the Aglianico is very different in the Salerno and southern Cilento area. You're very close to the sea, so it's a bit lighter than in the Taurasi, of course, because you have different soils. But it's very interesting. And of course, Puglia. I mean, Negramaro and also the Primitivo. There are different phases of Primitivo that I think also a lot of people don't know about. It's not only the very sweet and overripe Manduria. But you also have like Jadel Koll, then you have also the area in the Murge area where the Primitivo is also lighter, but a bit more fresher and elegant. It's not so heavy. So I think there's a lot of places in southern Italy that has been overlooked, or that have been overlooked. And I think also Abruzzo is coming, because I mean, Montepulciano di Abruzzo can be a great wine. It is a great wine, and they make great rosé wine.
Okay, so next, hopefully not 2021. That we probably won't be able to go there in 20, but 2022 we'll meet you there.
Yes, for sure.
She's coming out.
I'm all ready to travel now.
So are we.
Christopher, which are your favorite regions in Italy?
Mi piace tutte le regioni.
That is true.
I like all of it. It depends. Every region is like, it's like a different country. The wines are superb in all the regions. You know, in the last 15, 20 years, maybe, Italy has really stepped up their wine production, and, you know, based on cellaring practices and vineyard practices, you know, doing green harvesting and working in the cellar with sanitation and stainless steel fermentation tanks. It's just really got so good. And the wines, and, you know, every region is just spectacular. I love them all.
No, I agree. I think
Delicious.
the quality has really improved, I think, in many areas. And I think some of the wines that many perhaps still abroad still identify with Italy are not, I mean, they're still good wines, but they're a category of wines that are kind of now more parallel, because there's so many other great things being made. So, and I think a lot of the native grapes also have been valued also as monovarietal wines. And I think there's a lot of, like, Ciliegiolo is doing a good job, and of course Piedirosso in Campania that they now do as 100%. So I think there's a lot of, to say, every region has their kind of interesting
different wines. Yes, absolutely.
Sheila, what do you think?
Yeah, I have a passion for trying different grape varieties, and kind of like what you were saying, Katerina, just trying the monovarietal, so that way you get to really explore a specific grape.
Yeah, no, that's true. I had the other day, I had this producer, Massimo Alva, at my live stream, because I mean, he's one of the producers that started to rediscover the Palladirello Nero and Palladirello Bianco, and they've done a really good job in the Caserta area in Campania to put that grape back on the map. It's a bit more rustique wine, but I think it's very interesting because it's probably it identifies that area very much around Caserta. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting grapes to try.
All right. Oh, it was fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Great information, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Sheila.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're drunk at 6:20 at night, but whatever.
Well, I'm drunk at 3:30 a.m.
It's so
Yeah,
late.
Katerina, it's the middle of the night for you.
You're a trooper.
I already feel I'm totally red in the face because I'm.
Me too. I'm part Japanese,
Really,
so I'm
Katerina, that's
red.
really-
Thank you.
Okay.
It was great to meet you all.
Katerina, because it's so late for you, so.
Oh well. Now I'm awake, so now I can drink some wine. I will have wine for breakfast.
Yeah.
Mm.
Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Happy New Year.
Have
Enjoy your loved ones.
Thank you.
See you soon, Katerina. Bye.
All right.
Happy holidays. Ciao, bye.
Oh.
Ciao, ciao.